You'll be walking us through a number of the issues coming up already. Let's start off with the immediate concern.
Also, you spoke about the debt restructuring. Yeah. So currently what we have is an assurance. So after the assurance, you have to go ahead and do what we call the actual restructuring. So we've been able to get assurance from the G20 common framework. China is involved, India is involved, there's UK, there's France, and all the big guys you can find in the G20 common framework. And so the IMF has revealed that, for instance, what we are trying to do, first of all, is the balance of payment situation or gap. So the financing gap for the entire program is estimated at $15 billion US. And if you look at 2023 alone, we need close to $4.2 billion to close or finance that huge deficit or balance of payment gap. The IMF itself will give us 1.2 billion. We'll have 530 million USD from World Bank. But the most important thing is going forward, now you have a framework, you know how you want to do the restructuring, and you have to talk to the external creditors and know if you're going to, the type of relief you're going to get. And if you are talking about restructuring, what is the magnitude of the haircut that these external creditors are willing to take? You need to start negotiating with them one by one. So go to China, go to France, go to UK, go to Belgium, and engage India. All of them have separate portfolios with you. And just like the G20 Common Framework said in their press statement when they were giving us this kind of assurance, they said apart from them, governments must also go ahead and engage other creditors like the Eurobond creditors. We owe them the biggest, around $13 billion US.
And beyond the restructuring, the impact that this will have even on at the domestic level, that should be something we should be on the lookout for.
Yeah, of course. Well. Even the domestic debt restructuring that we had, which achieved a participation rate of about 85%, had its own challenge on the banking sector, for instance. It has been confirmed by the finance minister and the governor as well. That is why they are doing this recapitalization and also putting in place a stabilization fund to make sure that banks that will be, will take a hit from this whole restructuring will be cushioned. At the external level, right after you defaults, you should know that it will come with consequences. And for instance, if you default on your commercial loans from the Eurobond market, it simply means that you cannot go back to the market to borrow. And even if you want to go to the market to borrow, it will come at a high interest rate. Yesterday, the president spoke, I think 2 days ago in Doha, saying that we probably will get back to the international capital market soon because we need it. We need it because the balance of payment support we're talking about, for instance, 4.2 billion in 2022, IMF and World Bank will give us about 2.5 billion. Right. You are still left with a deficit of over $2 billion to service. This $2 billion that you want to service, if you really want to do this without touching your reserves or without having to deplete your reserve further, it is either you do restructuring, get the relief from restructuring, or probably go to the international fund market to borrow and to fill this gap.
China has come up strongly because of how much we owe them and what percentage of our external debt they hold. Will that be a major factor that will play out?
China has always been, the big guy at the negotiation table, probably because most of the external creditors were looking at China first. China must play ball before we all come along. And China was made co-chair with France for the G20 Common Framework, so it means they are involved. Right. And even with their involvement, there's still some sort of concerns around China's whole deal because they have majority of their loans being collateralized. So it simply means that if you take the 1.9 billion US dollars that we owe China, we have some of them that have been collateralized against certain minerals, like proceeds from oil, from cocoa, and then also from bauxite, and even including sales from electricity. People are saying that this is under a safety net or a safeguard loan, but blessed we know that if you go to a bank and you borrow and then you tell the bank that I'm using my house as a collateral. It simply means that if you default, the bank will come for your house, right? So we have collateralized loans with China. It's around 619 million. And page 52 of the IMF program stated clear that this is the amount of collateralized loan that we owe, and everything is held by China. And they had their own definition of collateralized loans. They say it could be an asset or it could be a revenue stream. And if you default, the creditor has the right to have access to this stream, revenue stream or whatever asset you may have. We have templates across Africa where when Uganda, Zimbabwe, they all defaulted on the loans they were owing China, we know what happened. Because some of the loans, they use their assets as security or collateral, and they went for it. And it's clear that the Chinese are in for business. And we went to them because we said we're tired of, grants, we're tired of aid. We wanted to do business. And just like the way you go to a bank and take money from the bank or borrow money from the bank for business and will pay back, that is the same thing that the Chinese will also want us to do. They are in for business, and we must be careful how we deal with some of these problems.
Let's look at the trajectory. The last time we went to the IMF, how soon did we move out of economic recession?
Well, the last time we went to the IMF, the situation was a bit different because we didn't have this problem of unsustainable debt. Our debt levels were not unsustainable like the way it is currently. So it made the whole program a bit smooth. We didn't have to do anything sort of restructuring or debt treatment or haircut or what do you call it. So it was very simple for us. The 16th IMF program and the 17th are different in the sense that the 16th one didn't have anything to do with haircuts, debt restructuring. But with this, our debt levels are so unsustainable that we need a fiscal space to even make sure that we accommodate the $3 billion bailout package from the IMF. That's what makes the 16th IMF program different. But experts like, Bob Quinn says that the 16th IMF program failed on its mandate to bring down debt levels. So probably you may also say that IMF didn't really do a very good job in bringing down our debt levels in the 16th program. But with the 17th, they are probably putting in place measures to make sure that we do not go back to the level we are in currently.
What are the projections in terms of how this will reduce inflation and also impact positively on the economy?
Well, currently we are in the, probably I will call it the ICU. We've moved from OPD to ICU. We are receiving treatment. And the first thing we'll want is probably a stability in the cedi. The cedi must start performing well against main trading currencies like the USD. We've seen the data. The cedi is performing pretty well. And if you compare what happened the same time last year and what is happening currently, then it is good news because last year the cedi can just move from 12 cedis to 13 cedis, 13 to 14. They were discrete movements, but this time around, the depreciation has been very slow. So first thing is to make sure that the local currency has been stabilized. Then we move from there to achieve some sort of inflation stabilization. We've seen inflation coming down after peaking in December 2022. It's around 41%, but the target of the program is to reduce it further, probably go back to the single digits that we were.
Isaac Ofori-Atta, grateful.